Hello, you're watching Avenue X, and this is that video I've promised in my final review of Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty Season 2, looking at all types of literature, history, cultural, food, coroner skill stuff that the drama has referred to. I will divide it in two sections, and you can find it in the timeline. First is to do with coroner skills. The second part will be looking at a lot of historical artifacts, paintings, literature that this drama has referred to. The third part will be looking at delicious food that Tang Dynasty people eat that showed up in the drama. And the last part will go into a little bit of politics and talking about why in the drama the character Lu Lingfeng is so proud of being Fanyang Lu Shi. So first let's start with coroner skills, the ancient time Chinese medical examiners, how they work and what kind of knowledge they've accumulated. One of the most famous Chinese classics on coroner skill is called Xi Yuan Lu or Xi Yuan Ji Lu, and it was published in the 13th century by the Tang Dynasty medical examiner Song Ci. And this often gets referred to as the ultimate Chinese ancient time medical examiner's textbook. The book is a collection of all types of knowledge and skills that people have learned and accumulated through the years of figuring out how a person died. In the season 2, you will see, for example, using the red umbrella under bright sunlight to look at the body and trying to spot previously invisible marks of wounds. They did discover different wavelengths, different color of light will reveal different things. The drama made it very simple. When you actually use that in practice, you would have to prep the body first in certain ways so that it will show up under the red light. But at least that's definitely something that exists. During the case of the death of the coroner, probably the most interesting skill is using a pancake to show the hidden bruise on a body. The Bai Mei Lao Bing, white plum hot pancake. The science behind it is using a lot of chemical compound to change and denature the protein in the blood, causing hemoglobin to darken in color. And with the heat of the pancake, increasing the human skin's light transmission, combined with that effect to bring out hidden bruises. It is called Bai Mei Lao Bing because it uses plum, which is high in organic acid. It often also combines vinegar, another form of acid, then using onions or leek that contains allicin, which is another chemical that can denature hemoglobin, and then plus alcohol, usually using wine lees that vaporizes really quickly. You combine all the ingredients into a pancake that is freshly baked, then they put a sheet of very thin paper on the body and put the pancake on top, sitting on an area of the body where you suspect there has been injury. Over time, that bruise gets brought onto top by the chemical reaction. And afterwards, technically, you can still eat your pancake because it's not in direct contact. So that's a very well recorded way of showing hidden bruise on a body. With very limited understanding of natural science back then and then equipment, people still managed to figure out such complicated ways of revealing the truth. As for the last case in the drama, when you see how they figure out the kid got poisoned, they also showed a form of a procedure that got recorded in this book. It is not very pleasant to read how it actually gets done, and the drama definitely made it look a lot easier. But they gave you a rough picture of how they do it, which is covering up all the holes of the body. So eyes, nose, ears, and you know where else you have a hole. And you cover all the holes and you put the glutinous rice into their mouth and immediately seal it and literally let the body as it decomposes creates gas. They also utilize vinegar again, trying to use the acid to bring out things that wouldn't previously be visible. And after hours of waiting, the gas accumulates, and if the person died of some form of poisoning, you will start to see the color and texture of that rice change and also smell things that's abnormal, and that's how they determine if the person got poisoned. So you see a form of that getting put on screen, but in a milder and also offensive way. So these things are actually all based on real records and how in ancient time medical examination gets practiced. Now let's move on to the second part of this video, talking about historical artifacts, literature, and all types of things that the drama has referred to that's related to the ancient culture. First, let's talk about the paintings. Painting is actually really important for this drama, not only because Xi Jun, the character, is a painter, and her skill helps them to break many cases. Painting is also such a valuable way of looking back at history, at details of life, at things that back then without camera, without recorder, you cannot have other proofs apart from paintings to use as reference to see, oh, how people dress, how people do their daily anything. It's really the situation of picture worth 1,000 words. In the drama, it opened up with a painting on the wall in the temple. It is called 降魔变, which is taming of the demons by Buddha. It is based on a very historically famous painting that unfortunately got lost, so now we don't have a record, but it's recorded down in writing during Tang Dynasty by the very famous painter Wu Daozi. He lived from 680 to 759, and he's known to be somebody who can paint anything. Humans, landscapes, animals, anything you can think of. Legend has it that he painted a painting that's called the 地狱变相, literally means the hell's view in a temple. It is said that that painting depicted hell in such gruesome and vivid detail that anybody who comes to this temple and looked at the painting will be so scared that they dare not do bad things in their life in the fear that they will end up in hell. So it's like the educational and visceral way to get the message across. And there was also a legend, although probably completely made up, that talks about how this painter managed to do this painting. And there's this suspicion of he actually did something terrible, murdered somebody because he's jealous of that person's talent. And that brought his psychology into this zone where he could actually paint the hellish view. And it's one of those famous legends that's never been backed up by any historical records. You never will be able to prove whether that happened. And in the drama, you definitely can tell the writer knows about this legend, about this painting, about this story about whether the painter actually did something wrong to be able to create that painting. So he did his own version where the painting really does have something to do with the darker side of the human heart and psyche, and gave you the version of the Qin Xiaobai and 降魔变 story. Another huge thing to do with painting happens at the end of the drama when they travel to Dunhuang. Dunhuang is a small city currently in the province of Gansu, which is neighboring Xinjiang. You travel another less than 200 kilometers from Dunhuang west, you will hit Xinjiang province. And obviously it's most famously known as something that's like a signpost on the way of Silk Road. Dunhuang has this natural landscape and sediment stone that's really suitable for carving this type of caves. And it is recorded as early as 4th century. People started to dig caves and put paintings into those caves. Over time, it has developed into this group of caves that now counts to over 700 individual rooms in that region, and then over 45,000 square meters worth of painting surface. Also over 2,400 sculptures. And they're mostly Buddhism paintings to do with famous scenes of Buddha and Buddha's teaching, also including a lot of depictions of people's lives back then. And it's even more interesting that in those caves, a lot of ancient scrolls have been discovered, and they cover unimaginably all types of subjects, from personal letters people have written, to recipes they've left, to even children's homework. No kidding, ancient time children's homework of practicing the same character over and over again and get bored and increasingly looking worse. There are also multiple divorce papers that have been discovered. One of the paper contained a very famous line that now often gets used, referred to as one of the best lines written in history of divorce paper, which is 一别两宽，各生欢喜, literally means with this one separation, we have two relieved hearts. And individually, we can regain happiness. Very open-minded divorce paper. And if you look at the second case, when they found out, the coroner left a divorce paper for the wife. Words written in that is kind of paraphrased from one of those letters that have been discovered in those caves. And again, credits to the writer who can really use all those elements very well in the story writing. Today, there's a lot of effort put into keeping those caves in their condition, but as time goes on, it will fade away. Eventually, things will be gone. So now people are doing big projects in China to scan all the caves in extreme high definition and three-dimensional space recreation so that we can keep a digital record of this magnificent human effort over hundreds of years. So if you are a big traveler, make sure to keep that on your bucket list. After painting, let's quickly talk about literature. The drama has a lot of references to Chinese literature, and we're not going to talk all about them. It's going to take too long. For example, poetry. Today, we're going to mainly mention the novels. The Tang Dynasty famous type of novel called 志怪 that are really ancient people's fantasy writings about monsters, demons, and one of the most famous book that this drama has shamelessly ripped off is 酉阳杂族. This book was written around the mid-9th century by a Tang Dynasty man called Duan Chengshi, who comes from a very privileged family, very well educated, the society's high-class person, who is very well learned and has this very diverse interest, let's say. So he wrote this collection of things that combines travel logs, food, demon stories, in the sense of let's collect all the interesting stories and all aspects of life and just put it into one book. Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty, as it is called Strange Tales, has a very heavy element of mysteries and legends. So you have a lot of monsters that are based on what the book had it. For example, in the first case, when Lu Linfeng goes to the forest at night, climbs up the tree, and encounters a monster that is from 酉阳杂族, a monster called Mu Pu, who lives on the tree and eats people. When they are in the third case, in the Blizzard Hotel in the mountain, and discover the ancient sunken pagoda in the ground, there's this underground creature that needs to be stabbed with a Bruce branch to die. That's also from this book. And there's an even more interesting and famous story, the Geese Cage Scholar, where the young man comes to this hotel and showed everybody that he can create the illusion. And in the illusion, you can see a scholar walking on a trail in the mountain and then encounters somebody, and that comes from the story. You will see a visual representation of the story in an animation series that I've talked about on my channel, and I highly recommend it. The 8 episodes, short individual animation that made up the 中国奇谭 a couple of years ago. The second animation in that series is geese, 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 based on the story when the scholar encounters a fox asking for help. And the fox has this magic where when the fox enters the scholar's geese case, the case didn't expand and the fox didn't become smaller, but somehow the fox managed to sit inside with the geese in it and not increasing the weight of this case. So the scholar can actually take the case and transport the fox to a place that the fox wants him to do. So that whole magical sort of dimensional warping of space-time in the story is represented in that animation series with this really memorable look. And thinking about over 1,000 years ago, when people write this type of really imaginative and fantastical stories, they actually are talking about magic that bends space-time. So it's all very fascinating. And with the popularity of this drama, a lot of people actually have talked about the fact that the actor who played Du Xiashu, he actually looks like a lot the animation character of the scholar who has the geese case, and I cannot argue that. They really do look very similar. So it's some kind of weird occurrence of, I don't know, synchronicity of the universe. This is just one aspect of literature that this drama has referred to, and it did refer to a lot more. I guess I'm just trying to say Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty, whether it's season 1 or 2, is a really rare IP these days in Chinese dramaland, because pretty much it's the only period drama that I see that is clearly written by somebody who knows Chinese literature history, Chinese culture very, very well. And this writer is not only writing scripts for fictional storytelling, he actually has published books, as he himself is really a researcher into that. It really is a case of utilizing your expertise in storytelling in the most efficient and interesting way. Finally, let's conclude this one point with a couple of really interesting historical artifacts that the drama have shown. During a scene of multiple people comparing the treasure they have, you see a couple of things get brought out by those people. That golden bowl that has lotus flower pattern on it, super pretty, and the silver sachet for incense. They're both from the same tomb that was excavated back in 1970 outside of Shanxi at a place called Hejiacun, literally means the village of He family. The bowl is believed to be a wine holder, so it's not for eating food but for drinking liquid. As for the silver sachet, it's a really interesting design, very refinedly made and scientifically impressive. I'll link a video in the description that tells you the detail about how it works. It is an ancient handmade gyroscope basically in function, allowing the wearer to walk and then jump and do whatever motion with this sachet on their body. And the dish that holds the incense up in the middle will always stay upright and not spilling. And then I have mentioned in first and second review about that stamp. And I want to add details now about why that stamp, looking so not as precious as the silver or gold, becomes a national treasure because its owner. The owner is a very famous historical figure, Du Guxin, who lived in the first half of the 6th century and was a super powerful political figure of the Beizhou Kingdom. This is the end of the chaotic period before very soon the unifying Sui dynasty is going to take over, and then after that Tang. And this guy, as a high official of the Beizhou, is known for two very famous things. First is he's super good looking. History has written him down as one of the best looking men of that kingdom and of his time. Once he was traveling outside of the city and he was late to return, and the city will shut its gate at a certain hour every day, so he is trying to get back home and into the city wall before nightfall. He rode the horse so fast that he didn't notice his hat become lopsided as he was riding. Many people on that evening saw this good-looking young man tilting his hat, unaware of that, riding through the city. And the next day, a lot of other young men in the city started to wear their hat lopsided because that has become a fashion. So, 侧帽, tilting your hat, becomes a word in Chinese that has this extended meaning of being super good looking. The second thing that's famous about this person is he had so many titles. He's so important in the political structure of that dynasty. Therefore, he had this historical stamp, which is multi-facetted. Each side will carve an official title he has, like this general, this premier, this is like Daenerys Targaryen when she needs to recite her full title situation, and you just put it on a stamp. And this stamp is actually made with jetstone, gemstone that's like based on coal, I believe. The material itself is not highly worth anything, but because it's owned by this historical figure, therefore it's priceless. He's known to be the most visionary father-in-law in Chinese history due to he fathered many children, among which there are 3 daughters who all became emperors. The eldest daughter married the Beizhou's royal family, and if you've watched this drama, it's the An Yixuan's character. And his 4th daughter married the Li family, who later become Tang Dynasty ruler. This guy's youngest daughter married Yang Jian, who become the first ruler of Sui dynasty. In terms of marrying daughter out to potentially like rulers of the future, this guy had the best luck ever in Chinese history. So that will add a little bit sort of legendary color to this historical figure again. And then obviously now you see how valuable that stamp is. So again, if you ever travel to Shanxi province, you can find the real thing of this stamp sitting in the museum. These are historical, cultural, literature, painting, all of this type of related stuff that I want to talk about in this video, but by no means that's where Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty 2 ended their reference. There are a lot more. Pretty much everything in this drama that you would suspect it probably comes from somewhere actually came from somewhere. Now let's move on to the third part of this video, probably the happiest part to talk about for me, which is food. There are many different kinds of food that you can see in this drama that are based on historical records of what food was available back then during Tang Dynasty. For example, you see the pepper being used to blow in the wind to scare off the crazy guy and his horse. Pepper was super expensive back then as it's traveled from the West to China. It is one of few things that can create that intense burning sensation in your mouth when you eat it as a spice back then, as chili peppers wasn't really discovered until much later in the timeline of world history. You just have to say Fei Jishi is a really good guy. Those peppers would cost him a fortune, and he blew those all away to save Lu Lingfeng. And in this drama, you'll see other things such as the stone pancake that the slightly crazy guy packed up trying to go back to heaven. That's real. It's still being made and eaten today. You will also see the lamb filling pancake, which is also a very common thing still being eaten today in Shanxi region in the northwest of China. And lamb was also one of the major meat of Tang Dynasty. Not the most ridiculously expensive, therefore pretty much normal people can also afford it type of meat. Pork wasn't eaten that much back then. And you will also see this noodle thing with a very flat and wide sized piece noodle boiled in soup called bo. This type of noodle actually has a very detailed recorded way of getting made, and you see that as something that Chuntiao cooks for the coroner. Even if you think about Fengqi Luoyang, that drama with Wang Yibo and Song Qian, Wang Yibo's character is a foodie, gourmet food commentator. He actually also talked about bo, this noodle, in one of those episodes. I remember talking about whether it's delicious or really poorly made. And even to today, there are multiple versions of the ancient bo still being eaten in the Shanxi province. I figure, why not just make some myself? That's how you make an ancient bo. The soup, the meat, the vegetables, you can do whatever you like. Today in Shanxi province, people really like to use tomato as the soup base, which wasn't possible back in Tang Dynasty, as this is a South America crop that didn't got into China until late Ming Dynasty. But the important thing here is how the actual noodles are made. And I made it following the historical record of how it gets done. And I have to say, they're very correct about soaking the noodle and then pinch it along the side of the bowl. It really easily flattens, stretches it out. If you have flour and you have time, give it a try and see if it works in your own kitchen. And this drama also featured one really well-known dessert. It will cost them a lot, and probably you have to be aristocrat to be able to eat it because you need ice. And ice is not available all year round. And probably it will be most popular during the middle of the summer when it's the hottest and hardest to keep ice. But this Su Shan literally means milk fat mountain. You have words describes what it looks like, but you also actually have drawings and paintings from Tang Dynasty that shows you what it looks like when people serve it. And it really does look like how the drama made it, where you have shaved ice on the bottom, and then you have su milk fat dripped over it. And how you make the su in Chinese historical record usually is using milk. Back then there's no skimmed milk, so it will be full fat, probably raw milk. You put it into a container. Often they use a bamboo, as you can easily seal it with the lid, and then give it crazy shakes for 30 minutes so that it naturally separates the fat and the liquid, which would be a type of whipped cream, really equivalent to today. Then you actually heat the cream up, melt it to a liquid form, pour it onto the top of the shaved ice mountain, and then you can add honey, sweeteners, fruit juice, whatever of ancient time of choice. Then you decorate it with little flowers and pretty little things. As you can see in the drama, they did that as a very elegant dessert that was definitely expensive. And in the drama, it is still eaten by very rich people, and it's on a banquet, and it's a way of the host showing his respect to his guests. Last part of this video talking about why Lu Lingfeng, Fan Yang, Lu Shi being so proud of that, and then why everybody in the society also is like they look up to you if you have that surname. And this is to do with a very particular type of aristocrat that existed for a period of time in ancient Chinese history called Shizu. It's not so different from European ancient history when you have different aristocrats and they are house of something. Or you can think of Game of Thrones, House of Targaryen, House of Stark. All those people are grouped together in a geolocation where they have the most ruling power and a very big population. This actually used to be a very long-reigning Chinese political power structure, until it got toppled, erased, and replaced by the centralized imperial power, where you have this ruling family uses exam systems to get the talent from the population, position them in official positions to run the country instead of relinquish a part of the power to different major surnames of aristocrats. A couple of very powerful aristocrats having enough power to actually challenge the imperial ruling lasted for about 600 to 700 years of time. It pretty much started from Three Kingdoms till the end of Tang Dynasty. During Tang Dynasty, there are multiple groups of very influential aristocrat families, and that's again based on their geolocation. The most well-known are called Wu Xing, Qi Wang, meaning there are 5 surnames and then 7 clans, because there are 2 names that had 2 clans. They're mainly from the Shandong regions. They are Cui Lu, Li Zheng, Wang. So these 5 surnames. And you can see the imperial Li surname is in that too. And that is 2 different clans of Li. One is from Longxi, the other is from Zhaojun. The imperial ruler of Tang Dynasty will term themselves as descendant of the Longxi Li clan. They are kind of there because they are the imperial family, and they added themselves into the most influential 5 surnames. Although among the rest of those surnames, those people actually don't really consider Li family to be equal. You have the weird situation during Tang Dynasty where Cui, Lu, Zheng, Wang, these 4 families secretly look down upon the imperial family. The Cui has also 2 clans called Qinghe Cui Shi and Bolin Cui Shi. These 2 clans of Cui are probably best known and most powerful. And then Lu is from Fanyang, and this is currently Hebei. Both of their ancestors actually come from the Jiang surname started with this famous legendary figure Jiang Ziya. If you watch Fengshen, Creation of Gods, yes, last year's summer movie, the character played by Huang Bo, he's the ancestor of them. So they have very long lineage and they highly pride themselves with that. So anyway, Cui, Lu, Zheng, Wang, these four major names, they don't consider the Li family on par with them, but because the Li got the power and through military and whatever, and they are sitting on the throne. So they're kind of, okay, we'll entertain with you, but we don't consider you actually as our equal. It got to the point where during Tang Dynasty, heirs of those major aristocrat families, they don't want to marry princesses from the Li family. And they'd much prefer marrying between each other. So the Zheng and the Wang and the Cui and Lu marry between each other. And the emperor got so annoyed by that. There was actually a rule established, which is there are a couple of surnames. Because you're too powerful, you're not allowed to marry each other. Even till late Tang Dynasty, you still have situations such as during one official exam, the top guy who scored number 1 of the whole nation, so being Zhuangyuan, and the emperor decided to marry a daughter of his to this guy. And he got so disappointed and pissed by that because his life goal was to marry a girl from the Cui Lu Zheng Wang. And he considers the princess is a lesser of a choice than the aristocrat family. So think about that. That was the general public's opinion about the high status of those aristocrat people and how they compare to the imperial power even by the end of Tang Dynasty. With all that in mind, now you look at Lu Lingfeng. He's from Fanyang Lu Shi, Cui Lu Zheng Wang, one of the most influential aristocrat family. Tall, handsome, powerful, well-educated. Considering biological dad is a Lu, and then biological mom is the princess. Like, what else can you hope for? You cannot deny the amount of influences those families have. And the reason they have that is because they come from historically well-educated, having a huge population in their own clan families, have long established root in a specific geolocation. Politics, businesses, industries, they also monopolizes education resources before printing press was invented. People really cannot learn anything if they don't have books, and those families have the best bookstores and libraries that other people cannot even dream of. So if you're born into those families, you naturally have so many advantages over other people. Therefore, over generations, you always sit on top. The end of Tang Dynasty really was the cutoff point of the influence of those aristocrat surnames and families on China's history. And why is that? Because during Tang Dynasty, the emperor was already hard at work of breaking those families apart, such as not allowing them to marry each other, also reducing their influences every way possible. And then at the end of it, you had a huge insurgence that happened for about 8 years period of time, led by a guy called Huang Chao. Had one thing that he really wanted to do and succeeded at doing, which is kill all the aristocrats. It's one of his manifesto things. This guy was so successful at his rebellions and insurgents that he actually took over Chang'an and pretty much killed all the Li family, the imperial family's descendants, also killed a huge number of officials, also slaughtered all those aristocrat families, their members who are living in Chang'an, and also send out people to literally chase down all those aristocrat people with the surname like Cui Lu Zheng Wang and a couple of other names. Kill them all. I don't like the aristocrats. I just want to get rid of them. A lot of those people from those families either got completely just biologically removed or they ran away, fled, and changed their surname. So that destroyed the existing power structure of all those aristocrat family at the end of Tang Dynasty. There was like a 60-year of period of chaos at the end of Tang, and then before North Song comes into power as another unified power. In those half a century, because of so much war and slaughtering happening, by the time North Song comes into power, there was hardly any major aristocrat surnames left in China that was previously in power. And from Song Dynasty onwards, you will see a lot of different surnames show up in the officials of the court. And this is when the exam system become finally fully fledged and in full operation from Song Dynasty onwards till the end of Qing and end of Imperial China. So you can look at the end of Tang as a breaking point of a type of politics in Chinese history and another type. And in a way, you can say that China's imperial power went through this change very early on compared to many other countries in this world. You can still say that even till today, in Europe, for example, you still have countries where certain aristocrats have even longer history than the ruling monarch, and they still have very dominant presence. And this has not been the case of China's ancient history for over 1,000 years. Now you know why, first, Lu Yingfeng is so proud. Second, his descendants with Xijun, they probably died out at the end of Tang Dynasty during the Huangchao insurgency, unfortunately. That's how real history went down. So these are the things I want to talk about that I found interesting, that I managed to dig out of Strange Tales of Tang Dynasty, this drama. And I cannot wait for the third season and see what more they can bring to the table. And for the writer, he will just have to keep digging deeper into the history, into the literature, into everything of Tang Dynasty. And I'm just gonna be happily sitting there as a foodie at a restaurant waiting to be served. Thank you for watching. I'm New X. I'll see you in my next video. Meanwhile, live long and happy drama watching.